AITA for refusing to sign anything until my family explained why they ignored my calls from the ER? I'm Summer, 27, and the youngest daughter in a family that learned a long time ago how to make my feelings sound like a personality defect. My mother, Lorraine, calls me sensitive the way other people say unstable. My father, Philip, says he hates conflict, which usually means he waits for me to swallow mine. My older sister, Amber, is 31 and has been the shiny, easy daughter for as long as I can remember. Amber was stressed. I was difficult. Amber forgot. I failed on purpose. Amber made a cutting joke at dinner, and Mom told me not to be so serious. If I asked Amber to stop, I was starting something. For years, I kept the peace by laughing off comments, paying small bills before they became family arguments, and pretending Sunday dinners did not leave my stomach in knots for the rest of the night. I had a note on my phone called, "Things Not Worth Saying." It was full of sentences I had typed and deleted because any attempt to defend myself became fresh evidence that I was the problem. The pattern extended to Grandma May. Grandma was 79 and had needed more help over the previous year. Nothing dramatic: prescriptions, rides, groceries, compression socks, replacement batteries for her hearing aids, the occasional copay that somehow became urgent on a Tuesday afternoon. I handled a lot of those things because I lived close enough to help and because Grandma never treated kindness like a performance. Amber posted pictures. I paid the pharmacy. Mom told relatives Amber was really stepping up. I told myself it did not matter who got credit as long as Grandma had what she needed. A few months before everything happened, Grandma asked me to come by after lunch. She was sitting at her kitchen table with a large mailing envelope beside her mug. "There are copies in there," she said. "Copies of what?" "Things people get forgetful about when money goes quiet." That was how Grandma talked. Plain words, no wasted motion. Inside were several bank statements from a dedicated care expense account, a handwritten ledger, copies of receipts, a notarized letter naming me as an authorized reviewer for that account, and instructions concerning a few keepsakes she wanted tracked separately from the rest of her belongings. I looked up at her. "Why me?" She tapped one finger against the envelope. "You notice what people try to smooth over." I asked if something had happened. "Not yet," she said. "Keep copies. Not because you're mean. Because you're careful." I took the envelope home and put it in a locked drawer. I did not tell anyone about it. Grandma had not asked me to manage all her finances or control her estate. My authority was narrow. I could review records for the care account, confirm expenses, and provide documentation if the administrator needed it. At the time, I thought Grandma was just being cautious. The day of Amber's celebration started with me feeling off. It was not technically her birthday. Amber and her husband, Nolan, were celebrating their anniversary and her recent birthday together with a private family dinner. Mom had talked about it for weeks as if Amber were receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. By late morning, I was dizzy. My hands felt strangely weak, and my heart kept racing for no obvious reason. I drank water, ate toast, and sat on the bathroom floor for 10 minutes because the tile felt cool against my legs. I almost called Mom. Then I pictured her sigh. I pictured her saying, "Today, Summer? Really?" So I waited. That is the part one am still embarrassed about. I had been trained so well not to inconvenience them that I treated my own body like an unreliable witness. Around 4 p.m., I stood up to get my keys and had to grab the counter. My chest felt tight, not crushing pain but wrong. My pulse seemed to skip and then sprint. I texted Mom. "Mom, I think I need help. I'm dizzy and my chest feels wrong." The message showed as read. I called Dad. It rang until voicemail. A minute later, Mom replied, "Not today, Summer. Your sister finally has something nice for herself." I stared at the screen long enough for it to dim. Then I called the nurse line listed on my insurance card. The nurse asked me a few questions and told me not to drive. While I was still on the phone, I slid down against the kitchen cabinets and apparently stopped answering clearly. A neighbor heard something fall when she came into the shared hallway. She knocked, called my name, and then called 911 when I could not get to the door. The next thing I remember clearly was the ER curtain. There was a plastic bracelet around my wrist. A monitor beeped beside me. My mouth was dry, and my phone was sitting on a tray with 7% battery. A nurse named Renee came in and adjusted the blood pressure cuff. "You're awake for real this time," she said. What happened? You had a significant heart rhythm issue, and your potassium was very low. They're keeping you for observation and repeating labs. I asked how I got there. She explained about the ambulance and my neighbor. Then she hesitated. We did try both emergency contacts listed in your chart. Twice. We left a message too. No one has called us back yet. I looked at the clock. It was after 9 p.m. Both numbers. Yes. I knew she was trying not to make it sound personal. It was personal. Renee found a charger at the nurse's station and plugged in my phone. I had missed calls from an unknown hospital number. Probably the hospital trying my own phone while I was out of it. I had no calls from Mom, Dad, or Amber. There was, however, a Facebook notification. Amber had tagged me in a photo. She was in the middle, leaning into Nolan, holding a champagne glass. Mom stood on one side of her, Dad on the other. Everyone was smiling under warm restaurant lights. The caption read, "First family night without her drama. Peace looks good on us." Under it were comments from relatives. A cousin wrote, "Finally LOL." Another posted 3 laughing emojis. Mom had reacted with a heart. Dad was visible in the photo, smiling like his phone had not lit up with calls from an emergency room. I wanted to type a paragraph. I wanted to post a picture of the 4 in my arm and ask whether this looked peaceful enough for them. Instead, I took screenshots. I captured the caption, the comments, the time, and Mom's reaction. I saved my text to her with the read receipt. I saved her reply. I saved the unanswered call to Dad. Then I put my phone face down. The doctor later explained that dehydration and an electrolyte imbalance had triggered an abnormal rhythm. It was treatable, but not something I should have ignored. I stayed overnight, received fluids and medication, and left the next afternoon with discharge papers, lab follow-up instructions, and strict orders to return if the symptoms came back. Before I left, Renee asked whether I wanted to update my emergency contacts. I said, "Not yet." I was too tired to choose new people. I was also still carrying the pathetic idea that my parents might call once they realized what had happened. They did not call that day. Mom sent a text the following morning. "I heard you went to the hospital. You really scared everyone." There was no question about how I felt. No apology. No mention of the hospital calls. I replied with one sentence. "I'm recovering and following up with my doctor." Dad sent a thumbs-up reaction. Amber did not contact me at all. For the next few days I rested, went to a follow-up appointment, and tried not to look at Facebook. The post remained up. Relatives kept reacting to it. I noticed one comment from Aunt Carmen asking, "Is Summer okay?" Amber never answered. Then 5 days after the ER, my phone started ringing before 8 a.m. Mom called 4 times. Dad called twice. Amber called once. Nolan left a voicemail. His voice was careful and low. "Hey Summer. I know things are tense, but there's some paperwork involving May's care account. It would be easier for everybody if you could sign and send it back today. I think there's a way to solve this without making it ugly." Not one of them had called that urgently when I was attached to a heart monitor. Dad texted next. "We need you to be reasonable. This is not the time to punish the family." I read the message twice. Then Mom emailed me a scanned document. Her subject line was "Urgent, Grandma." The document was a 1-page statement saying that, as an authorized family reviewer, I confirmed Lorraine had properly managed all funds and reimbursements connected to Grandma May's care account during the previous 12 months. The statement was broad. Too broad. It did not list transactions. It did not explain why my confirmation was needed. It included language saying I had reviewed all supporting documentation and found no discrepancies. I had not reviewed all supporting documentation. All I had to do, according to Mom, was sign one harmless page. Her email said, "Summer, please do not make this into another emotional issue. Your grandmother's care could be delayed because of your stubbornness. Sign it, scan it, and send it back. We are just worried about May." I wrote back, "I'm not signing anything I haven't verified. Please send the full account statement, reimbursement ledger, and the name of the administrator requesting this certification. I'm not discussing legal or financial documents by phone." The calls stopped for almost an hour. Then Amber texted, You're seriously going to drag Grandma into your jealousy? I did not respond. I took Grandma's envelope from my locked drawer and spread the contents across my table. I opened my banking app and searched every payment I had made for Grandma over the previous year. There were pharmacy copays, a medical transport fee, 2 grocery deliveries, a replacement shower chair, hearing aid batteries, a utility payment when Grandma's autopay failed. I had never asked to be reimbursed for most of it. When I had mentioned the larger expenses to Mom, she told me to send her the receipts for Grandma's records. So I had. Now I compared those receipts to Grandma's handwritten ledger and the partial statements in the envelope. Several reimbursements had been issued from the care account for the exact amounts I paid. But the reimbursements had not gone to me. They went to Lorraine. 2 went to Amber. The description said, family caregiver reimbursement, and medical supplies. Amber had received credit for purchasing the shower chair I ordered and paid for. Mom had been reimbursed for a pharmacy charge that came directly from my debit card. They had not just ignored what I did. They had used it. Near the back of the statements was a transfer for $8,400 labeled Temporary Family Advance. It had been moved from Grandma's care account 3 days before Amber's celebration. Grandma's handwritten note beside the transaction said, "Elle says it will be returned after venue deposit clears." I did not approve this. My skin went cold. The administrator was likely asking questions because the money had not been returned or because Grandma had challenged the transfer. I called Grandma directly. She answered on the 4th ring. "Summer, are you alone?" "Yes." "Did you approve an $8,400 transfer from your care account?" There was a pause. "No." "Did Mom tell you what it was for?" "She said Amber needed a temporary bridge for the dinner and Nolan would put it back." "Did you agree?" I told her that account was not for parties. I closed my eyes. "Grandma, why didn't you call me?" "Because your mother said it had already been fixed." "It hasn't." "I know that now." Her voice sounded tired, not confused. Then she added, "That is why you have the letter." I asked whether she wanted me to sign anything for Mom. "No." "Do you want me to send the records to the account administrator if they ask?" "Yes. Copies only." "Okay." Before we hung up, Grandma said, "I trusted you because you didn't need applause for helping." That nearly broke me more than the hospital had. I spent the rest of the afternoon building a timeline. I saved the hospital's voicemail. Renee had left a message for my emergency contacts asking them to return the call regarding a patient under observation. I requested the outgoing call record from the hospital portal. I printed my text to Mom, including the read receipt and her reply. I printed Amber's post and every visible comment. I copied my discharge summary and blacked out the private details that had nothing to do with the issue. The remaining page showed the date, the ER observation, the abnormal rhythm, and the follow-up instructions. Then I organized Grandma's account records. I matched each reimbursement to the original receipt or bank transfer. I highlighted the $8,400 transfer in Grandma's note. I kept the original notarized letter and made copies. I did not post any of it. I did not call relatives. I did not threaten anyone. I simply stopped taking phone calls. Everything had to be in writing. That evening, Nolan texted me privately. "Do you have the original receipts?" I replied. "Why?" He took 10 minutes to answer. "Amber said those copies were just for your own records. I'm trying to understand what you have before this gets blown out of proportion." I wrote, "The original payment records are mine. Grandma's account records are Grandma's. Any legitimate request can come from the administrator." His next message came almost immediately. "This could look worse than it is." That was the first honest thing anyone on Amber's side had said. I replied, "Then accurate records should help." He stopped messaging. The next day, Mom began working the family. My cousin sent me a long text about how disappointed she was that I was holding Grandma's care money hostage over a Facebook joke. Another relative wrote, "Your mother says you're refusing to help unless everyone apologizes." That was not true, but it was familiar. Mom always turned facts into motives. If I said no, it was revenge. If I asked for proof, it was jealousy. If I objected to being mistreated, it was because I wanted attention. Aunt Carmen called once. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was awkward. Summer, I only heard your mother's version. I'm not saying she's right. Call me when you can. I emailed her instead. I'm not withholding Grandma's money or care. I'm refusing to sign a statement saying I verified records I have not been given. I will provide Grandma's documents directly to the proper administrator. Aunt Carmen replied. That is not what Lorraine told us. I wrote. I know. Mom's next email went to the entire family thread. Summer is using a misunderstanding during a stressful week to punish all of us. We are just worried about May. I have tried repeatedly to resolve this privately, but Summer insists on escalating. Amber replied to the thread. This is what she does. She waits until someone else has something good, then creates a crisis. Dad added. Can everyone please calm down? Family does not need to keep score. I stared at his message. Family does not keep score. That was easy to say when the same people always got charged and the same people always got forgiven. I drafted a response, then deleted it. I was not ready to send the evidence in pieces. They would explain away each item separately. Mom would call the hospital message a misunderstanding. Amber would call the post a joke. Dad would say he had not seen his phone. They would treat the money as an unrelated issue. So I waited. Mom invited me to dinner 2 nights later. Her text said, we need to sit together as a family and put this behind us. Grandma's situation cannot wait. Carmen and a few others will be there because everyone is concerned. It was an ambush described as concern. I agreed anyway. Before leaving, I scheduled an email to the family thread. The subject line was, before anyone asks me to apologize. I attached a clean timeline, the hospital call record, the voicemail transcript, the screenshot of Mom's read message in reply, Amber's post, the redacted discharge summary, Grandma's notarized authorization, my payment receipts, the account reimbursements, and the record of the $8,400 transfer. I set the email to send from my phone when I pressed one button. I also put printed copies into a sealed mailing envelope. When I arrived, everyone was already seated around Mom's dining table. Mom had made roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. It was the kind of meal she served when she wanted to look nurturing in front of witnesses. Dad sat at the far end with his shoulders rounded. Amber and Nolan were on one side. Aunt Carmen sat across from them. 2 cousins were there too. Grandma was not. I was relieved. I had told Mom by email that Grandma was not to be used as a prop for this conversation. Mom smiled too brightly when I entered. We're just worried, she said. I know. I placed the envelope beside my plate but did not sit immediately. Amber looked at it. What is that? Copies. Mom's smile tightened. Summer, this is exactly what I mean. You come in prepared for a fight. I came prepared to discuss the document you want me to sign. Dad exhaled. Can we eat first? No, Amber said. I want this handled. Mom gave her a soft look, as if Amber were the brave one. Then she turned to me. You need to stop punishing us with paperwork. I asked for the records behind a statement you want me to certify. You know I take care of my mother. I know you say that. The room changed slightly. Not silence exactly. More like everyone stopped pretending dinner was about dinner. Mom lowered her voice. Do you understand how worried you made everyone when you disappeared into a hospital and refused to communicate? I looked at her. I texted you before I went. You sent one vague message on Amber's night. I said I was dizzy and my chest felt wrong. You have said things like that before. No, I haven't. Amber leaned back in her chair. Oh my God. This is why nobody knows when to take you seriously. Everything is an emergency with you. I looked at her. You knew the hospital called. Her eyes flicked to Nolan. I knew Mom got some random number. The voicemail identified the hospital. It was a joke post, Amber said. People joke online. You tagged me while I was under observation. You couldn't stand one night not being about you. Dad rubbed his forehead. Family doesn't keep score, Summer. I sat down. No. Family keeps receipts. Amber gave a short laugh, but Nolan did not. Mom folded her hands on the table. I am your mother, and you are humiliating me over a misunderstanding. You told relatives I invented a crisis because I was jealous of Amber. I said your timing was unfortunate. You said I was trying to ruin her event. That is not what I said. Aunt Carmen looked from Mom to me. What did she say? Mom ignored her. She slid the unsigned statement toward me. Sign this so Grandma's account can be restored, and then we can address your hurt feelings privately. I did not touch the page. What happened to the $8,400? Nolan's head snapped toward Amber. One of my cousins stopped lifting her water glass. Mom's expression did not change, but a red patch appeared above her collar. This is not the time. That money came from Grandma's care account 3 days before Amber's celebration. Amber's voice sharpened. It was temporary. So you knew. It was a bridge. Nolan's transfer was delayed. Nolan turned to her. You told me your mom covered the venue deposit. Amber said nothing. He looked at Mom. You said it came from your savings. Mom's voice stayed soft. It was going back. Was? I asked. Dad finally looked up. Your mother was under a lot of stress. That does not turn Grandma's care account into a family credit line. Mom pressed her lips together. You are punishing an elderly woman to make a point. No. I spoke to Grandma. She told me not to sign. That landed harder than anything else. Mom blinked. You called her behind my back? She is allowed to answer her own phone. Amber pushed away from the table. You're seriously dragging Grandma into your jealousy. I did not transfer her money to pay for my party. It was not my party. It was our anniversary dinner. That makes no difference. Dad's voice rose for the first time. Enough. Just sign it so we can all move on. I took out my phone. No. Then I pressed send. Phones began vibrating around the table. Mom looked down at hers. Amber grabbed hers immediately. Aunt Carmen opened the email and started scrolling. I slid the sealed envelope to the center of the table. You all saw the post, I said. Now you can see what happened before and after it. Amber's face changed as she moved through the attachments. Delete that email. Right now. No. This has my name in it. So did your public post. That was different. You made it public when you turned my hospital bed into a punchline. Mom's eyes filled with tears almost on command. I cannot believe my own daughter would do this to me. Aunt Carmen did not look up from her phone. Lorraine, stop crying and answer the question. Mom stared at her. Carmen scrolled back to the hospital call record. The hospital called twice. Summer's message says read. Your reply is right here. Then you heart reacted to Amber's post. Mom said. It was a chaotic night. Carmen looked directly at her. How much of this did you leave out? Mom opened her mouth but no answer came. Dad pushed his chair back slightly. I don't want to stand in the middle of this. I turned to him. You were never in the middle. You were in the picture. He looked down. One of my cousins whispered. I thought she was making it up. I know, I said. She winced. Nolan had reached the financial pages. He looked at Amber. These reimbursements, why does your name show up? Amber crossed her arms. Mom handled all of that. Summer paid for these. She offered. That is not what I asked. Mom tried to interrupt. Nolan, this is family accounting. It gets messy. He looked at the $8,400 transfer again. This is our venue deposit. Amber said. I told you it was covered. You told me your parents gifted it to us. It was going to be replaced. With what? Amber's mouth tightened. For the first time in my life, nobody was asking me to calm down. They were asking Lorraine and Amber to explain. Mom tried one last time to regain control. Summer has always kept little records so she can use them later. That is not normal. I kept my voice level. I kept records because every time I told the truth, you rewrote it. You are enjoying this. No. I'm ending it. I pointed to the statement. I will not sign a false certification. I will send Grandma's records directly to the account administrator or attorney. I will confirm only what the documents prove. I will help Grandma directly. I will not help you turn my receipts into your alibi. Dad said, "You're going to get your mother in trouble." I looked at him. She moved the money. Amber accepted it. You watched all of this and called yourself neutral. The consequences belong to the people who made the choices. Mom whispered, "Don't embarrass your mother." I answered, "Then stop asking me to lie for her." I stood, picked up my bag, and left the printed copies on the table. Amber deleted the Facebook post before I reached my car. It did not matter. Everyone in that room had the screenshot. The consequences were not dramatic in the movie sense. No one was arrested at dinner. No police burst through the door. No one confessed in a perfect speech. What happened was smaller and more permanent. The care account issue went through the proper administrator. I sent copies of Grandma's notarized authorization, her ledger, my receipts, and the transfer records directly to the person handling the review. I did not send my originals to Mom. The $8,400 had to be returned. Mom and Amber were removed from informal control over the care account, while the transactions were reviewed. Future reimbursements required receipts and direct approval. Grandma's recurring care expenses were moved into a process that did not depend on family promises. Amber told relatives the transfer had been an innocent short-term loan. Some believed her. Some went quiet. Few apologized. The cousin who had sent me laughing emojis wrote, "I didn't know the hospital part was real." I replied, "You did not ask." She never answered. Nolan did not become a hero. He was angry because Amber's lies had entered his household, and because the financial review could affect both of them. He sent me one message saying he had not known the money came from Grandma. I believed he had not known everything. I also believed he had known enough to ask me for the original receipts before anyone had told me what was wrong. Aunt Carmen called me 3 days later. This time I answered. "I only heard your mother's version," she said. "I should have asked you." "Yes." There was a pause. "I owe you an apology." "Yes." She let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "You're not going to make this easy for me, are you?" "I'm not making it hard. I'm letting it be accurate." "That's fair." Her apology was not elegant, but it was real. She started checking on Grandma directly instead of relying on Mom's updates. We kept limited contact after that. Dad sent several messages asking me to reconsider how harshly I was treating Mom. I sent him the hospital call record one final time and wrote, "Silence was your decision too." He did not reply. Mom alternated between guilt and anger. One message said she had not slept in days. Another said I had destroyed the family. Another said she forgave me. I created a filter so her emails went into a separate folder. I checked only when I had the energy. I stopped answering calls. Amber sent one long message accusing me of being jealous of her marriage, her confidence, and the fact that people liked her. I replied, "This is about Grandma's money and your public post. I will not discuss invented motives." Then I blocked her for 30 days. The most important change happened at my follow-up appointment. The receptionist handed me a form and asked whether my emergency contacts were still correct. I crossed out Lorraine and Philip. I added my neighbor with her permission, and Aunt Carmen as a backup. My hand did not shake. I also stopped paying informal family expenses. When Mom texted that Grandma needed something, I confirmed it directly with Grandma or the care coordinator. If it was legitimate, I paid the provider or used the authorized process. I never again sent a receipt to Mom without sending it to the administrator too. Grandma's handwritten note stayed in my locked drawer. People show you who they are when money goes quiet. Keep copies. Not because you're mean. Because you're careful. Months later, the family was still divided over whether I had gone too far. That phrase stopped bothering me. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always describe a boundary as cruelty. I never received the apology I once thought I needed. Mom never admitted she knew the hospital call was serious. Dad never admitted that refusing to intervene was the same as choosing a side. Amber never admitted the post was cruel. She only admitted it looked bad out of context. But context was the one thing I finally had in writing. I no longer carried a note called "Things Not Worth Saying." I deleted it. I was not their difficult daughter, their oversensitive sister, or their unpaid cleanup crew. I was simply the person who had stopped accepting a role they created for me. I didn't punish them for missing my emergency. I just stopped being available for theirs. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.